course, at the end of the day, there was an agreement to have 70,000 naira as the new minimum wage in Nigeria, and that maybe it's cheering to some people and may not be cheering to others, because some are expecting more than that. But the president actually told them the reality, and of course after that, he now agreed that 70,000 will come as the new minimum wage. That will be our discussion today, and I have a guest in the studio. Taiwo Olapade is a media practitioner. Taiwo, nice to have you on Top Point.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be back with you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Over the years, there's been this issue of living wage for the Nigerian worker, and has been here and there. The labor will come up and say, look, this is the amount we want. The government will say, look, we cannot pay this. Look at the resources coming and stuff like that. There has been a trajectory that's affected the whole process. But looking at it holistically, what's your take on this?
For me, I think it's a win-win situation for both the labor and the federal government. I say this because, just like you said, we have had a series of meetings, series of disagreements, but I'm happy that in the long run, the president waded into this matter, and at the last meeting last week, they had the first meeting with the president, and they rescheduled the meeting so that they can now have a final agreement on and eventually 70,000 was agreed. Though, like you said, some people will think it's small or it's low, but for me, it is a win-win situation, because if you are coming back from what we had in 2019 to 2024, the last one we just laughed about April, a few months ago, it was 30,000 naira. And from 30 to 70, that's I think about 40,000 naira difference. Though inflation could have also caught up with it, however, it's still something that I think labor can accept for now, because whether we like it or not, we cannot continue to have unending discussion over this new minimum wage. So for me, I think it's a win-win situation, and we are also happy with the accelerated passage of the new minimum wage, because from that meeting of last week Thursday, we were told that the president will eventually send a bill to that effect to the National Assembly, which was done yesterday, and it goes first, second reading, and eventually it was passed. And we're expecting that any moment from now, the president will sign it into law, and of course, when it's signed into law, that means it is a matter of constitution. So we expect the federal government, the subnational, the state government, and also at the local government level, the minimum wage for the Nigerian worker will now stand at 70,000 naira. However, my worry is that now that some people are saying that maybe the labor union betrayed them, that they should have negotiated more. After all, they started from 615 to 250,000 naira. But we keep asking the question, even the 30,000 naira minimum wage that lapsed in April, most of the states defaulted. How many states? And not because they don't have that money. They have the money, but they refuse to pay. So what have we done in that regard?
Okay, yeah. If you're saying that maybe I should just go back to what you just said, because some Nigerians are actually disappointed, just like you said, and some expect that, the labor will not go less than maybe 200,000, maybe 100,000, yeah. But looking at the parameters and other things that are coming, the government was able to say, look, this is what we can afford, so that there won't be crisis in the system. The organized private sector stood for 60,000. Now it is now 70,000. Do you think they can also pay that, looking at what is happening?
Well, I was just coming to that. I said it's a win-win situation, and I say that because if you read the coming out from that meeting, Joe Ajaero, the NLC president, if you read the mood on his face, he was not happy with that agreement of 70,000 naira. But they had no choice at that point, because whether we like it or not, it was also laid from the feelers that we heard from that meeting. It was also laid on the table that the president was even ready to pay more. But the fear was because of the Nigerian Governors Forum. You remember they stood their ground. Even when they agreed for 52,000 naira, they were saying that they don't have the capacity to pay. And I say no. Now they are getting more money from the federal, from FAT, Federation account. So what have they been doing with the money? You know, I also said initially that even the 30,000 naira last minimum wage that lapsed in April, most of the state government, they defaulted. When we can count on our fingertips how many of them paid up to date. Of course, a state like Lagos, most of the states in the South, they have the capacity to pay, even more than 70,000 naira minimum wage. And that's why, for me, I'm happy that one of the key points from that, you know, the new minimum wage is that instead of 5 years negotiation, it has reduced to 3 years based on the economic indices, so that they can renegotiate and negotiate a new better wage for the workers. Fine, but I'm saying that even when it was 30,000 naira, some state governors defaulted. What have we done? Have we asked them truly reason why they couldn't match up? Because it's a constitutional matter. So if they fail to pay, that means they have defaulted and they have run foul of the law.
Yes, but nothing was done on that. But the claim, some of the governors then, their claim was that they wouldn't have enough money to run infrastructural provision and other things, and that if they solely put those monies into salaries, how will they run the states? Do you agree with that?
I totally disagree, because we know that we have recurrent expenditure and we also have the other capital expenditure. That's how they run budget every other year. You know, from when you are setting aside, when you are working on your budget, you know what amount will be allocated to recurrent and also to capital expenditure. So from day one, they are aware. But now, I will also ask them, now that they are also getting so much money from the federal allocation account, they are getting so much money from derivation. They even just got some money into several billions of naira from the federal government as regards the COVID-19, whatever, they just got billions of naira. It is just misplaced priority. It's not a matter of they don't have the capacity. Initially, before this government came into power, the highest we have shared in terms of federal allocation between federal, state, and local government was around 900 billion naira. Now we have crossed the threshold of 1 trillion, 1.2, 1.3 trillion naira, for God's sake.
That's a whole lot of money.
That's a whole lot of money.
But so one would wonder what the states are doing with some, not all, some of the states.
What are the projects that they are spending this money on? They should showcase those projects to us. If their argument is that they don't have the money, or if they should use the money to pay salary, it will affect infrastructure. We know we also need infrastructure. But this is time that we should cater more for stomach infrastructure. Former governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, when he was saying people are thinking for a ride, for a job. Now, the problem in this country now is more of stomach.
Food. Okay.
That should be the priority. That should be the major concern at the federal, at the state, and even at the local government.
Even if you are looking at food, you should also be looking at adequate security. Because once you have security, once you have food.
Of course, without food security, everything revolves around food security. We know security is also very important, because it's also the reason why we're having this food crisis. Because farmers can't they can't access their farm again because of kidnappers, because of the insurgent, because of which other one again? Kidnappers, insurgent, and banditry.
Don't you think?
Particularly in the north.
Yes, maybe I should just ask you this. Don't you think it's as a result of what probably transpired or happened a year before? Because when you're into agriculture, there are certain periods that you must farm so that you can have your harvest.
Yes.
Don't you think it was as a result of those things that had happened in the past which created problems? Because lately we do not hear of banditry much and stuff like that.
Of course, that's been curtailed.
Yes, so that means expectations may be high for us to have more food, maybe in the coming months or so.
Government is continuum. We know when this administration was coming into power, we have had several crises around banditry, kidnapping, insurgency, which sincerely, if you look at it by statistics, by record, we can't say that most of these have also reduced to some extent under this government. However, I'm just saying that even when the president came into power, you remember about 4 months ago, the president, because of the food crisis in the country, he challenged state governments that they should cultivate 5,000 farmlands so that we can be able to bridge the gap between this the shortage. But how many of the state governments, and they are collecting money from the federal government? It's quite unfortunate that most of the time, oftentimes, we focus more attention on the government at the center, but we forget about the one that is subnational, that is very close to us. How many of us can say, okay, president is not doing well, I want to protest, I want to do something, I want to go to Abuja? It may be difficult, but I can easily say my governor is not doing well. I can go to the government house, either in Lagos or in Ibadan or even the local government, which is the authority of government, which is the government at the grassroots level, which is very close to us. But we focus more on the federal government. I know the federal government, the buck stop on the table of the president, but we have governors of 36 states, and we have 774 local governments, because which is also the government at the grassroots. I make bold to say that if we can have true governance, justice, transparency, accountability at the grassroots level, at the local government level, forget about it. The state will do well, and even it will also snowball. We have a spiral effect at the federal government level, but we leave local government, we leave state, we jump straight to the federal government.
Don't you think that was as a result of what the state governments created for themselves? Because before now, there used to be this development from the grassroots to the state level and now to the national level. But it turned around. Now from the national to the state. States now dish out monies to local governments. Now, but don't think it was their making over the years. That has been
practiced in the last couple of years, particularly under the former president Muhammadu Buhari, because
even before then, even that has been the practice.
Because we have shied away from our responsibilities. Nobody is holding anybody to account. Nobody is holding anybody to account, and that's why we have some of the past governor of the state still having cases with EFCC or ICPC. And I want to call on those anti-graft agencies that they should continue to do this work diligently, because they also hold Nigeria as a country. They owe a duty to ensure that they fight this corruption to the level at which it will be difficult for anyone in government, particularly either elected or appointed, to want to siphon money or do whatever they like. This is a national wealth, and this is a national treasury. Forget about the fact that you are governor. You are governor of the state because people have surrendered their mandate to you. You are a senator today because people have voted for you. You are a member of House of Rep. You are there to represent them, not your own personal interest. We have seen more of personal interest, self-aggrandizement, particularly on the part of our political appointees, or even those that we believe that we have elected into offices.
Yes. Now that the table is turning through the Supreme Court ruling, do you see a change in that kind of a system where autonomy will be more and more development will come from the grassroots now that it's closer to the people?
Of course, it is expected because of the landmark ruling by the Supreme Court, the apex court in the land, a few weeks ago. It is expected that now that we have local governments getting their money directly from the source, from the FAC, and not the, surprisingly, the JAC we talk about is also a creation of the Constitution. So that's why you see, Constitution will say something from one section, another section we also counter it. So that's why some lawyers are also saying we need holistic review of our Constitution. All these piecemeal amendments, you can't take us anywhere. Because JAC, that we're also saying is the reason why government or governors hold on so much to council fund, is also a creation of our Constitution. So your question is, what are we going to see? Of course, we expect to see more development at the grassroots, at the local government level. This is the time for all of us to hold our council managers, the council chairman, the vice chairman, the councillors, the supervisory council. It's time for us to hold them accountable. Even under this government, in the last 1 year, they have also been receiving much more money, much more allocation ever than before. But now that they have an autonomy, now that the Supreme Court has granted them a financial autonomy that makes them to collect their money from the federal government directly, it is time for me and you to ask them, what are they doing with this money? We need to ask questions. We can't just allow it to pass and say, okay, well, they have an autonomy now. Okay, let's see what we need to put pressure on them. We need to be the watchdog rather of the local government, so that they can, because it's when they perform that we can also see that dividend coming our ways, and we can see, and that can reduce the pressure on the federal government. There's much money now in circulation, particularly in states and even local government, and people are saying that, what are they doing with this money?
Yes, I attended a civil society organization forum some months back, and there were various issues that came up. And I recall that one of the speakers said we should go back to agriculture, that at the local government level, that local government should farm. At the state level stage to also farm. At the national level, it should also be encouraged, and that even individuals and even corporate organizations should go into farming, and that will actually reduce the food security problem that we have and also increase exportation. Now, in that kind of a situation, how do we make them work in this direction? Because either we like it or not, we must be dependent on ourselves and independent from outside.
Food sufficiency.
Yes.
Well, I totally agree with this submission, and maybe an addendum would be, if we are talking about the need for the farmers to go back to the farm. Number one, we know we have security challenges, so it's also a clarion call on the federal government and also the security apparatus. I know they are doing a wonderful job. Maybe they can also take it a bit further, because there are farmers, there are stories, particularly in the northeastern part of the country, that we hear, that we have also verified, that the insurgents, the bandits, they will ask them to either pay money or even cultivate land for them. In a government, in a country we have a government.
That's appalling.
Yes, it's unacceptable that they will have to pay some money to them before they can harvest their crop, or they even do a cultivation of farms for the bandits or for the kidnappers or for the insurgents. Who does that? So government needs to do more in ensuring that our farmers can access their farm, because that's also the reason why we have this food crisis, this food shortage. And I also want to bring it to the floor. Her Excellency, the First Lady, about 2 weeks ago, she also demonstrated the need for us, like what you have just said, a subsistence farming culture.
Yeah, I saw her going, having a farm.
We used to do that in the past, that within your environment, you can just
farm.
plant either not rice, maybe beans,
vegetable, pepper.
There are things, corn, that you can, we used to do that in the past. What has happened? We used to do that in the past. And even the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food System in Lagos State, I think about a week ago, she also had a press briefing, and she was also emphasizing the need for us to do a farming within our homes, within our environment. And that can also assist us in bringing down, in covering this food security, food crisis that we are battling at the moment. So I think it's a clarion call, and it's something that I want to say that we Nigerians, we should imbibe, because we used to do that in the past. So what has happened? Does it mean that we have used all these lands for building houses, building structures, forgetting about subsidiary kind of farming system? So we need, this is a time for us to go back, just like you said earlier, we need to go back to where we are coming from. Where we are coming from, we used to do subsistence kind of farming, in which you can, even within your own family, you can plant something behind your environment, your domo, as they used to call it in local parlance, and within weeks, within months, you harvest. So, but in terms of at the larger scale, the government need to ensure that our farmers can go back to the farms. They also need to give them farm supplement, farm input, tractors, fertilizers, soft loans and the like. And I said earlier, the president, about 4 or 5 months ago, when we are running into this crisis, challenged state governors to cultivate about 5,000 farmland. I don't know how many governors,
Yes,
governors of the state,
yes, as we round up
have done that.
Time is not on our side, but as we round up now, because we have just less than 2 minutes. Now, looking at that, why can't we have land spread across Nigeria?
Do we have land in Lagos?
We do have land in Lagos.
It seems to be the smallest, but
we have land in Lagos. If you go to the Badagry axis, the Produ axis, the Ekpe axis, there's land. You may not find land for cultivation in Ikeja.
And we have a very arable land in the country.
Yes, so
not.
yes, there's some land that can be cultivated out of the metropolis. Yes, but even at that, other state governors too should follow suit, because I see the Southwest governors coming together to say, look, we have to start something through the DAWN, the development agenda. Yes. Now, as we round up now, your take.
Well, my final take is also to call on Mr. President to also take the bull by the horn, to do more as regards this food crisis that we are facing at the moment. There are solutions to it, and the major solution, number one, is to ensure that we continue to decimate the insurgency, the kidnappers, the armed banditry that were being faced in the northeastern part of the country, and also in the middle belt, because that's where we have the food basket of the nation. So if you can deal decisively more on those who are, tormenting us, who are preventing farmers to go to their farmland, that will also restore us to the lost glory of being able to feed ourselves. Secondly, we need farm input for the farmers. They also need soft loans. These are some, and also we also need to encourage young farmers. And I want to say kudos to Lagos State government. They are doing something like that in Araga, and they have been doing it for since I think the first tenure of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. They bring together young farmers and they train them in aquaculture, piggery, all sort of, and eventually when they are done, they graduate them and they give them some empowerment so that they can also become, because most of our farmers are also aging. So
the younger ones need to come
can
up
also come into gradually,
financial incentive to do that.
When we are facing out the aging one, the young ones can also come in. And more importantly, me and you, we need to go back to our homes. At the back of our homes, plant something, so that we can also, within our own environment, we can continue this subsistence farming and be able to feed ourselves, no matter how little.
Yes, I must tell you that, Taiwo, you have to go back to the farm.
I'm going
back.
You have
to also go to your backyard.
I've already planted beans.
I will also
and I'm
go
looking
back
at maybe in the next 3 or 4 months.
I will also go, because I have a backyard too that I do some small farming. So we all need to do it. So Nigerians, it is your opportunity. If you want to reduce food security in Nigeria, you also need to encourage yourself in farming. Do little ones at the backyard of your house, even with sacks in your houses. With sand, you can do quite a whole lot. I want to thank you, Taiwo, for being part of Talk Point.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
On that note, we have come to the end of Talk Point. 767 and 112 are still the lines to always call in times of emergency. Stay out of trouble. Nigeria and Lagos will get better. I am Omololu Rosso, signing out.